Tell
Hmm.
me the man that you were in December of 2010. Just the guy that you were before all this happened to you.
I mean, I haven't deviated away from then and now, but I mean, I had a upbringing that was, I mean, it was immaculate. I was raised up in the both parents was in the home, go to church, cut the yards, cut the neighbor yards. I mean, a helping hand. I was a servant. I was a servant because I followed Christianity, and that's what Jesus was. He was a servant, man. So I had a servant heart, but I made some, unwise decisions and choices, and I can admit to that. But going through life as a young child, I mean, you don't know who you really are, So I was just trying to find myself, but I had, bumped my head in the road a couple of times with the law, but that didn't define me as an individual. But overall, I mean, I love the Lord, man. I love people, and I'm a caring person, man. I'm very considerate of others, but I love and respect. That's who Lydell Grant was. I mean, and that's who I'm still am today.
Got you. So in December of 2010, you're about 33 years old, and there is there is a stabbing in a parking lot of a club on December 10th, 2010. You're nowhere to be found. You're not even in the area. You're minding your business, living life. You don't even know about this stabbing that happens in Houston, Texas. And this is an area of Houston, Texas, for folks that may not know, that had a lot of clubs at the time. A lot of folks would go to the clubs, right? So this stabbing happens. A person dies. A person is chased down and stabbed in a parking lot. Really, really horrific, horrific incident. The next day, again, you are nowhere in the area. The next day, you go to that area. You park your car in the parking lot, and I believe a doorman or a security guard says, "Huh, this guy looks familiar," and writes your license plate down.
Hmm.
Do I have this right?
That's correct. That's correct.
My God! And then less than a week later, you're arrested.
Yeah, less than a week, and you are specifically correct when you say less than a week. But let's back up a little bit. Now, the $1 million question to me, when once I was arrested for first degree murder 3 days after the murder happened. Now, I wasn't no POI, person of interest, or hey, Mr. Lydell Grant, we need to speak with you down here, homicide. Do you mind coming down here so we can, question you about a murder that happened that's involving your name? I mean, none of the proper steps were taken. It was just straight up, hey man, crime. Now look, he called not the same night that he say he saw me go back up in go back up in where they were standing. He said that he seen me park my car, and he remembered vividly because I squeezed and made my way inside of a parking spot that was tight. Now, no, and remember this: no suspect caught or apprehended. So he was a eyewitness to this happening. Now, if he thought that I was the person that did this, and he say he seen me park my car, then why he didn't call the detective right then and there on the spot? Why he didn't call the police right then and there on the spot when it was 10:30 and I didn't leave until 1:30? So that's a 3 hour span period. He wait 2 days after this, which was Tuesday, and called Crime Stoppers anonymous. Well, they got to leave the info, but he called anonymously, and he gave my VIN number to a vehicle that I was driving that he walked up to, literally walked up to after I have already parked and vanished off into the club scene. He went and wrote down my VIN number and called Crime Stoppers 2 days later and gave them my VIN number, and that's how I became a suspect.
It's just crazy. Literally
That easy.
parking while black. Like you were literally just parking your car the
Not
next
knowing
day.
nothing. Not knowing nothing. Just minding my own business. Seriously, man, from the heart. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously, man.
And you know what got to me too, Mr. Grant, is that I went and looked back at the news reports at the time, and I always try and do this.
Mm-hmm.
These news articles at the time, they weren't even calling you a suspect. They weren't even saying
Murder.
allegedly. They were saying murderer, murderer. And I'm not talking about like some random, silly blogs. I mean actual respected news outlets are calling you a murderer and you've just been arrested.
Mm-hmm.
And there was also a whole narrative because it happened outside of a gay club. So some other like outlets attached themselves to it, thinking it might be a hate crime. I just couldn't believe the whole
Exactly.
narrative
A lot of people.
they put on you. So as this is happening, the media, you're arrested. Tell me, what are you thinking? What is your spirit? What is your soul going through?
To be honest with you, that's a good question that you asked. Well, I'm gonna answer it. I was really thinking, not, I was, as this was going on in my mind. I was, number one, I was thinking, how did I become a suspect? I know I haven't done nothing. I haven't done nothing to nobody. Nobody ever did nothing to me to even go that extreme mile to even put that much harm upon someone. So at the time, I'm like, the media is just, I mean, making me look like a monster, and they don't even know the half. They don't even know the facts. I mean, how could you know the facts in the early stage? I didn't know what was going on because I wasn't there. And then I was trying to figure out through my lawyer, and he refused to give me the truth, man. He thought that I did it. So they said that I was a murderer. It was a lover's quarrel. You know, all kind of weird things, man. And I was
My
just
God.
sitting back
Damn.
reading the headlines, not having no one to defend me at all. So I said, let me just be quiet. I even reached out to some publications, like the Houston Chronicle in the beginning. Brian Hunter, or Brian Hill of the editorial section. No response. Channel Two News, none of them responded. They went on with their little narrative, like you said, and ran with it, man. No DNA was tested before they arrested me. So they arrested. This is what happened, and you agree or disagree. They arrested me ahead of time before they even did the DNA on the fingernail scraping. They arrested me, charged me with murder. All right. Once I'm in the custody, that was in December. Then January, the Houston Police Department, what they do is they go and test the fingernail scraping. Bro, I'm not no biologist. I'm not no scientist. But I tell you, when I got the DNA report, my lawyer never gave them to me. But I had a friend of mine who was a civil lawyer. He got them through public records. And I see why he didn't want to give me the police report, because it had a lot of information in there that he was trying to keep away from me. But I ended up getting it. So look, they narrating the story, of whatever they're saying. I don't have nobody to defend me. Now the DNA wasn't done. After I get arrested, then they do DNA testing. But they had already broadcasted me out publicly as a murderer. The murderer has been arrested with no accident. Just saying I was a murderer, man. That was hard. Bro, it was hard because I know I didn't do it, and I didn't have nobody to defend me. I couldn't defend my name. But
It's just, it's scary. And I want to say this was a violent crime. This man, he was 28 years old, and may he rest in peace. It's very sad.
yeah,
Aaron Shearhorn, I could be
sure,
saying that
home.
wrong. Shearhorn, yeah.
Sure.
And if the way that he was stabbed repeatedly and there was a fight, you would have some marks on your body or something. There was nothing there. I mean, I can't. I tell y'all, for those out there listening, this case, my mind is blown every single week, but I was really disturbed because you literally park in a parking lot the next day. All right, so How is your family affected by this? When you are accused of murder, it takes 2 years for a trial. How is your family affected by this?
I mean, you gotta understand, man. It was heartbreaking. It was emotional. I mean, it was a struggle. It was like uh, um, unwanted information. I mean, I'm gonna say this to coincide with that. People that know Lydell Grant, they knew that I didn't do that. But it's easy for someone. Just let's take you for instance. Is a person throw something on your name, especially that's bad? People love to go and spread rumors, and they
Oh
don't even
yeah.
know the facts. They just hear something, oh, and take off because
Oh yeah.
that makes them feel important. But to have someone throw something on your name and you know you didn't do it, and you know that you come from a great family, a background. I mean, how else is a family, or let's say mom, dad, brothers, how they gonna feel? They gonna feel crushed. You know, I didn't already been previously to prison for something that I did do as a youngster. I was juvenile, but still, I paid my price for that, man. Came out
That's right.
and I started doing what I dreamed of always doing, man. I did the 15 years first from 93 to 2009. I come home, 2005. So I come home and I just started, man, I was so motivated. I'm a very ambitious person. So I always knew that I was going to become someone, I was going to be successful. I always had that mind frame. I didn't see nothing other than but get ahead in life. So I started doing my music, man, and it took off pretty, quick. And I was clambering, man, and I was clambering on my way up. And then this right here, it happened. But you know what, bro? And this is with all God honesty. I, I I didn't understand it in the beginning. Okay, they took me from the streets and put me in a closet with a toilet and a sink in it. Okay, with no one to talk to, no one to discuss, no one to call. Now I want you to hear me clearly because this is part of my testimony, but it coincides with the facts. They put me in the cell because they put me in. It was called administration separation. They separated me from the regular population due to the fact that my case was fresh and it was high profile. They would be reliable. They would be reliable if something was to happen to me, let's say by a family member or a friend of the victim while I'm in population. So for my protection and for, to protect them, they put me in administrative separation. So I'm like, bro, a mattress and a Bible with a roll of toilet paper. That's it. That's
Mm.
it. That's all I got. I go from the streets to a cell with a Bible, toilet paper, and a mattress. Once I really just was able to sit down and calm down, I grabbed the Bible. And right then and there, that's when God started speaking to me. Right then and there. Everything, it's like I just opened the book and the words that I read, that was the voice of, and this is the God on the truth, man. He say, you you're not gonna get out of this no earlier than what I have set for you. I told my mom, man, I'll be back. I'll be back because I sat there and I listened to the trial as the trial went through, and them witnesses, I don't know if they were paid. I don't know if they was promised anything, but I do know this: they all got up there and they lied with a coerced. If you go back and look at the transcripts of my trial, you will see it's a pattern that the prosecutor continue to display and present to each witness the same pattern, the same question that she asked one, she asked another, and they all answered in the same answer, man. Now, how
Mr.
ironic is
Grant,
that?
it's crazy. Let's talk about this trial for a minute. So there were six witnesses who all said that you did this, and then there was the state attorney, who basically, I would say, it appears that she lied on. She basically lied because she said, and if I have this wrong, correct me. She said, "Well, we took they took the DNA. Your DNA wasn't found, but she said, well, we can't really exclude him." Now, if your DNA isn't found, but we can't really exclude him,
That don't
what
even
does
make
that mean?
sense.
It doesn't make sense. And she says that on the stand, and I'm just like, wow. I got to ask you this though, because you are a black man in Houston. What are the what are the racial dynamics of this? Are the eyewitnesses white? Like the state attorney? Like, was there anyone in there who looked like you in this system?
Good question. Um, you know, we're gonna start from the judge. We're gonna go over to the secretary, his secretary. We're gonna go to the court officers. We're gonna go to the constable that was in there, on to the state attorneys, both of them, and the defense attorneys, and they all were white. And it's like everything that I was taught that I didn't understand as a young coming up, because we went to church, man. Everything that I didn't understand growing up, coming up, I was able to apply it in this situation right here, man.
Mr. Grant, let me ask you. I mean, I kind of know the answer to this, must ask you anyway.
Uh,
Why do you think, as this evidence is coming out, it's obvious you didn't do it? The state attorney, if she has any soul, any conscience, she knows what the truth is. The eyewitnesses are all shaky. Why do you think they still said we're going to lock him up? They still came
embarrassment.
after you.
Embarrassment.
Embarrassment.
They didn't want to face embarrassment for one, and for two, they wanted to close the books, man. I mean, these detectives, they get bonuses, they get boosted up, they get to have authority over another area up in the police force. I mean, they do a lot of officers, district attorneys, lawyers. They do things that will be detrimental to a human being, instead of honoring the rights that was, you know, uh, um, established in the Constitution. These lawyers, they play games with people's lives. These judges, they play games with people's lives. These prosecutors, they young, hungry, upcoming. They trying to make a name for themselves. I mean, you got to understand that they'll do anything that to play a foul ball just to get a conviction when it's not even supposed to be like that.
Mm.
Their duty as a sworn officer, a judiciary officer, their sworn duty is to seek justice, and ignoring. I'm talking about ignoring clear and convincing evidence, ignoring that, overlooking that because they had it in their hand, they had it in their possession. They did the test on it, and they seen that they were able to make a determination that this blood right here belonged to the victim. The same person, which is the criminology, the same person who did the testing on the victim's blood was the same person who did the testing on my blood. So at what step that you missed doing the test in my situation versus you doing it in the victim? It was something, but it wasn't nothing. They knew that it wasn't mine, but yet and still they wanted to try me, and they kept pursuing me as the suspect when in actuality and in reality, man, they knew it wasn't
Did,
no
did they
mistake. They
did they
This is
ever
what it
find the
is,
killer? Did they
sir.
ever find the killer? Did they ever
Yes,
find the
sir.
killer?
They
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 did.
did. They did. Just hold
And
on. Just let me ask just a
go
little
ahead,
bit. Just
please,
okay.
please. Go ahead.
By them knowing that, damn, we already arrested him and we already they tried to sweep the truth up under the rug, but it happened like that every day. Every morning they sending people, brothers down there, brothers, African
Mm,
American brothers,
mm,
man, and Hispanics. They are sending them down to prison with these
mm.
big old football numbers, man. Well, I mean, how could you sleep at night when you know you didn't messed over somebody? I mean, how that's not even right, man. And
That's
this
just no
game been
soul.
going on for so long, but lately it's the wool been pulled over. Yeah, yes,
I
sir.
mean, listen, your case is in 2010, 2012. You would think it was, 50 years before. I got to ask you this, though. I don't know if you know the answer to this question. Did
Mm.
the actual murderer, did he look anything like you? Or did he look anything like you whatsoever?
No, sir. Speaking on that, the description that they gave in the initial police report, in the beginning, when everything was fresh on their mind, it didn't even match.
Mm,
It didn't even match. I mean, they said the dude, the dude was bald headed. I never was bald. I never been bald headed. Only time I've been bald headed when I go in prison. When I went to prison and I go through diagnosis, they shave you like military, but I don't wear my hair bald headed. So they said it was just conflicting. One witness to say the dude was chubby, husky. One of them said that he was real thin and he had hair. The other one said he didn't have hair. I mean, how can my lawyer, who was supposed to represent me to his full ability, miss that? And then, did you know that majority of the witnesses, I found out later that they were out on bond,
mm.
they were on probation, and one of them was on probation in the courtroom that I was going to trial on. None
Let
of
me
that,
ask you,
none of that came out, to the jury. But go ahead.
was it so you go behind bars, you're convicted, your sentence, your original sentence is life. And I often ask folks about surviving going behind bars. Uh, I'm wondering for you, was it you had already been behind bars before? Was it harder to survive because this was your second time here and you're wrongfully convicted, or did you already have the survival skills somewhere, in the back of your mind that you kind of knew how to get by? How was it surviving there, being there for a second time when you're there wrongfully?
Well, first thing I did, when they told me life right then and there, I mean, I haven't even lived. I haven't even lived. I missed all my teen years. I missed all that, the prom, the football game. I missed all that. But I'm like, life. I told my mom, I said, Mom, I'll be back. I said, I'm not going to prison. I'm going to college. I'm going to live on campus. And that's how I transformed my mind right then and there that I'm finna go to school and I'm finna be living on campus. I'm going to law school. Meaning, I already told I'm finna go down here and fight. I'm finna go down here, get in this law library, and open up my cases. Because I knew. I wasn't worried about, I couldn't, because if I would have focused on what was being said, if I would have focused on, how people was portraying me as a person, I would have lost focus on what I needed to do. You got to do what you got to do what you need to do. You got to do. So I had in my mind, I'm finna go to law school. I went down there, and I got in that law library. I learned the law. That was for 5.5 years straight. I promise to you. You can check, you can call and check the hours. I got a bunch of hours in the law library, but I studied the law. I already semi knew my case from going to trial and hearing everything out. Now I have my transcripts. I went through them. I mean, I dissected them trial transcripts, and man, did I found it. I found all, but it was only one thing that we had to focus on, and that was the DNA. The DNA is going to prove everything.
Yep.
I mean, this is a DNA case. Why? How we gonna ignore this DNA? I mean, don't you know that evidence has secured convictions, and it has also secured people being exonerated. So
Yeah.
why would you ignore you talking about you couldn't make a conclusion when it came to Lydell Grant DNA? I mean, my DNA, my known DNA was at the bottom. Now, the mixture DNA that was at the top of my known DNA, it had the victim's DNA and it had another unknown individual DNA. But down there at the bottom, if you were to look, none of my DNA samples equal up or compared to the DNA that was intertwined with the victims.
Mr. Grant, I'm sorry, we have to go soon, but I do want to add to that that because of DNA evidence and the work of the Innocence Project, you were finally freed on November 26, 2019. You weren't exonerated until May 21st,
Yes, sir.
2021, just about 2 months ago. And
Uh-huh.
now you are working to receive compensation from the state of Texas. Hopefully that happens soon. But before you go, though, I just want to know you've been out for almost 2 years. Where is your life today? What are you doing today?
Oh man, just prospering. I got three businesses that I got up and running. I'm going to school. I started school in August. I'm doing seminars. I'm doing presentations. Uh, I'm just staying busy, man, as much as possible. I have a bunch of friends that I went to school with. They turned principals, they teachers, they pastors, they mentors, and I've been invited out to, different places and to speak to the kids, man. That's what I want to do. That's how I plan to give back, man. Just trying to direct the young generation into a righteous path, man, because God did say, be righteous and righteousness should be added unto you. The world, I don't even know how to describe it nowadays, man, but I got out and I just been observing, and I'm really upset and sickened how this world didn't turn, but I want to give back that way and just continue to do good and try to be a voice for the ones that I left behind, man. Because there's a lot of brothers, even though they're in prison, they're not guilty. You got a lot of brothers that are very much actual innocent, and they just don't know how to read or write, or they don't have the support on the outside, and they gave up, So I was a fighter all my life, man, and I knew that this was gonna be a fight, and I was really, really ready to go the distance, man. And victory, it came out in my favor.